Welcome to Crushing Kayfabe. My name is Jason Garish. Thank you for tuning in. A lot going on, a lot to cover in a short amount of time. I'll try to do my best here, but number of notable deaths, unfortunately, in the last week. Let's start things off with Bob Barker. Price is Right host for how many years now? God only knows. I know I grew up with my mother watching it. She would watch 2 game shows a day, and that was Price is Right and The Wheel of Fortune. And spent a lot of my childhood seeing that, for better or for worse kind of thing. As a kid, you don't really appreciate it, but would much rather have been watching cartoons. But favorite of my mother's, Bob Barker, always an advocate for spaying and neutering pets. Seemingly a good guy. I don't know a whole lot about him. I haven't seen too many bad reports, but little stuff here and there. God only knows what's accurate or true, but definitely a television icon. Spent one appearance on Monday Night Raw as a guest host. I think he got into it with Chris Jericho, if I remember correctly, with a recreation kind of his game show. Kind of a badass too. I mean, I know he studied martial arts. If you watch like Happy Gilmore, he's a legitimate badass. He was trained, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. Tai Chi, whatnot. Maybe some other practices. I could actually look that up. Why don't I look that up? But yeah, like I said, pretty legitimate badass. It's a shame to see him go. 99 years old. And I know there's been a lot of very crude remarks, unfortunately, about that. Kind of stupid jokes going around, but unfortunately, everybody has to have their time, their spotlight, their 15 minutes of fame. But yeah, rest in peace, Bob Barker, who's actually a black belt in karate. Had a red belt in Tang Soo Do, which was under Chuck Norris, which I think they were actually neighbors, if I'm not mistaken. Pretty wild. I didn't know it was karate. For some reason, I thought it was some form of kung fu. That's wild. Well, it shows he definitely knew how to throw a punch in Happy Gilmore. But yeah, unfortunate television icon gone in Bob Barker. So rest in peace, Bob Barker. Next one, much more related to the wrestling world. We saw the passing of Terry Funk, hardcore icon, died at 79. What is there to say about Terry Funk? Unfortunately, I didn't get to see a lot of his wrestling growing up, being from Connecticut, growing up in Connecticut. I didn't see a lot of Terry Funk or his brother, Dory Funk Jr., or even his father, wrestle. Unfortunately, because it was all WWE all the time. It wasn't until we got cable that I started seeing other promotions that I didn't even know existed up until that point. And I did, to a certain effect. I shouldn't say it totally. I knew about the NWA because I'd see the wrestling mags, and I'd see a lot of Dusty Rhodes being featured on like PWI and whatnot. I'd see a lot of Terry Funk being featured, because those two battled it out really hellaciously a lot. And wasn't really until much later on, unfortunately, in his career, as mostly through his tenure at ECW, where he really took that company on his back and carried it, and doesn't get enough credit. Paul Heyman gets a ton of credit, as well he should. He might have screwed over some people, but he did everything for that company, and Terry Funk was that veteran that needed to come in and help put them on the match. And it's kind of ironic that a few days before his death, for some reason, a reel came across my wife's news feed that featured the ending to a Mick Foley and Terry Funk match where seemingly the entire audience threw their chairs into the ring, and she asked me, was this a work? Was this staged? And no, that's ECW. A lot worse stuff happened than that in ECW. Had people bringing weapons for like Tommy Dreamer and whatnot to use during matches. I mean, look at the Sabu stuff with the barbed wire and everything else going on. Jeez, I mean, ECW was crazy, and it's kind of funny because she didn't get to experience that history, but I did get to see some ECW, and yes, that was legitimate, that was real, and that's the kind of mania and pop that different kind of pop, I guess, that Terry Funk inspired, And then later on, he went on to win tag team championships with Mick Foley, so in WWE. So, unfortunately, his WWE run was kind of a blip on the radar in comparison to his work outside of WWE, which is substantial. And when you incorporate all of the stuff he did on the independent scene too, it's just incredible. I mean, what was it, 5 decades? I think that doesn't even seem possible, but the man led a very full life. I can't really think of anything else, unfortunately, he would have been able to do, and if you look at things like what was it, Beyond the Mat, that documentary, at what point it kind of goes over some of his injuries, and basically he had no cartilage left in his knees. I don't know how this man was walking, at a certain point, and like I say, 79, which these days almost seems young, but man, did he live life to its fullest. Oh, man, did he. And incredibly influential and incredibly underrated, in my opinion. Like I said, unfortunately, the cause of death that was given was dementia, which is horrible, especially, I mean, he'd been dealing with an absolute myriad of health issues, unfortunately, but that man absolutely lived his life to the fullest. So, which makes kind of the next announcement that much harder. Like I say, God rest, rest in peace, Terry Funk. He's up there in his own double cross ranch in heaven now, and like I said, now in comparison to living to their full potential and getting to see everything they're capable of, we have the unfortunate passing of Bray Wyatt. And this is one that hit me probably the hardest. No, there's no probably about it. It hit me absolutely the hardest was Bray. And unfortunately dying at age 36 due to a heart attack. It's being reported that the heart attack was possibly related to COVID, being exacerbated by COVID. Apparently there was a pre-existing heart condition, which is terrifying to me because this is one of the things that absolutely scared me about COVID during the first run with the pandemic, because I do suffer from hypertension. That was immediately one of my first thoughts: is this thing going to kill me? And because it has taken some out. And now Bray, unfortunately, is the next one on that list, as far as I can tell, at least from all reports that I can see. Terribly tragic to die at only 36. Excuse me. Horribly tragic. Like, this one really hit me in the gut and had, in some ways, an initial experience similar to the one that I experienced with Chris Benoit. And I know it's probably a horrible thing to say, but it had an emotional reaction initially that was very similar to that. Initially, when Chris Benoit died, I didn't know all of the details behind it. None of us did. WWE went through with that tribute show, and I hate to bring up his name during this, but I just need to make that emotional comparison at the time, because like I said, I didn't know the atrocities that he had committed at the time. And unfortunately, my initial reaction, along with a lot of other people's to this, was that because of the young age, we initially thought or assumed that it was suicide. Which is probably a horrible, not probably a horrible thought. It is a horrible thought. I'm sorry. Just because he had dealt with depression in the past, he had dealt with emotional issues, and the passing of Brody Lee, I know, affected him so much. I mean, this is probably equivalent in some ways to, more so to, like the passing of Eddie Guerrero, which was gut-wrenching in its own way. He obviously died from a heart attack also, so I can't recall off the top of my head what his age was, unfortunately. But one of my friends, Tommy, made an interesting comparison. It kind of took me back at first because I didn't understand fully where he was going with this. One of my coworkers, who is an avid listener to the show, thank you, gigantic shout out to you. I'm amazed we haven't gotten fired from some of the discussions we've had at work regarding wrestling. Just he made the comparison, believe it or not, to Freddie Mercury, and I kind of at first didn't understand what he was alluding to. But then he made the comparison to Freddie Mercury because they were both individuals who died in their prime, who hadn't fully realized the full extent, library breadth of their creativity. And that was very succinctly, kind of put when into frame, and it clicked, and I said, yeah, you're very right there. Because when Freddie died, they just experienced that upswing back with Queen, because of the whole Live Aid thing, fittingly enough at Wembley. And because Queen had been kind of dipping in sales, waning in popularity, and was, I think at that instant, they might have even been thinking about permanently disbanding. I believe Freddie went off to do his solo album, and it wasn't looking very good. He did that reunion at Live Aid, which exposed them to millions of people who probably hadn't been exposed to their music before, and realized the absolute genius of Freddie Mercury and how he could capture a crowd in his hand and capture that whole world in his hands at that moment. And that's aptly enough comparable to what Bray Wyatt did, was holding the whole world in the palm of his hands. When you saw the Fireflies react, it was visceral, emotional, and from the heart. I'm sorry, I'm having a little trouble kind of formulating my thoughts right now. It was such an emotional reaction when I heard that, and unfortunately, like I said, the first initial thought was suicide. But getting back to the Freddie Mercury analogy, we didn't get to see the full potential of Bray Wyatt's creativity, unfortunately. He was constantly reinventing himself, constantly exploring things within the wrestling industry that had never been explored before. Constantly coming up with new creative ideas and ways to promote them. If you look back through some of his tweets, he set up storylines possibly years ahead of time. What things that he alluded to were eventually set up in storyline later, much later. Brilliant at doing that, just having this whole plan formulated in his head. And unfortunately, his last run was not great. I mean, he came out of the gates incredible. I mean, the marketing leading up to it and the foreshadowing leading up to his reappearance was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. It got all of us wrestling fans excited and stoked. When he came back, it was huge. And he came back as, kind of the real Bray Wyatt, as the man behind the mask, and alluding to then what was going to be done with the mask in the future with his Funhouse characters and Uncle Howdy. Unfortunately, things kind of ran out of steam when he was entered into the gimmick match with LA Knight. And, getting back to, I don't know if I mentioned the brilliant tribute that Cody Rhodes did for Terry Funk. I would be remiss in not mentioning that. That was excellent. He flew in just for that, I understand. And that gets me back to, one individual, Roman Reigns, who has taken some criticism for not appearing. We don't know yet why he didn't appear. I am not going to play knocks on him. He obviously has his own health issues right now he's dealing with. There might have been transportation issues. I know that Alexa Bliss was unable to appear, unfortunately, because of transportation issues, and it broke her heart. But yeah, now's not the time to knock on Roman Reigns. That's idiotic. Stop. But getting back to Bray Wyatt, just brilliant tribute that LA Knight did. Really beautiful, kind of tying everything in, and the comments at the end where he said, Wiseman once told me, and basically alluding to, run at the end of it. Was very well done. Very well done. I would expect no less from LA Knight, and he appeared to be choked up too, but he did an amazing job. Anyone is doubting why this man is so popular should shut up right now, because is he going to have the future and the lifespan of some of the other younger wrestlers? No, but he has so much more charisma, so much more experience, and just has proven again and again he knows what to do in the mic, and puts in a very some very good matches. And but getting back to Bray Wyatt, also it was incredible to see the Fireflies at the end of the program. Also, I know Seth, once the taping was off the air, he had a brilliant tribute to heartfelt tribute to Bray Wyatt that was incredible. So long live the Fireflies, long live the Funhouse, long live the Fiend. He can be with Brody Lee now, which is sad in a way, and another way too, which is -1. Brody Lee's son now has lost both his father and his godfather, unfortunately. So prayers going out to JoJo, the Wyndham family. I was hoping to see Bo show up, but we don't know the details behind that. Maybe they just figured they don't know how to do it right now. Does Uncle Howdy go into the ring, unmask, and leave his hat in the ring? There's so many things they can do, and there's so much more opportunity. There's an opportunity tonight to do more with it. But I know at AEW All In, which I'm not going to have a whole lot of time to talk about, unfortunately, but the House of Black did a brilliant tribute where they came out with a lantern, and just great, just incredible tribute. And at All In, it was incredible to see some of the Fireflies out there too. Just beautiful. I know. I didn't get to see the whole program, unfortunately. I saw bits and pieces here and there, but I did get to see the intro from Darby and Sting, which was great with the usage of Seek and Destroy from Metallica, which was one of the entrance themes that Sting used prominently in WCW, which was brilliant. Got the crowd going, just great production on that. I don't know if Darby was involved in the video of that, but it was great. like I said, the tribute, FTR had the tribute, and I believe they retained the belts too, if I'm not mistaken, which is shocking to me because Cash Wheeler's future is kind of up in the air as far as I can tell right now. But Bucks, Wembley, speaking of, they had their own Freddie Mercury tribute coming out with the jackets, so one of the few times I can't hate on the Bucks. All right, so yeah, what else happened at All In? Jeez, we had Saraya became champion with women's champion, I should say. Congratulations to her. I know MJF retained, and what I've heard was an incredible match, and I can't expect any less from them. They also got the ROH tag team titles, which I'm kind of glad that Cole didn't turn on him. I mean, things were teased from what I understand a few times, but kudos to them. I don't even know where to go with the Jack Perry altercation between him and CM Punk. He's coming off more and more like a little punk. I can't stand him now. Some of these entitled people on this roster are just sickening. This new generation of wrestlers just kind of sickens me in some ways. I'll wait till I get all of the details because I've heard mixed stories, unfortunately. I don't know what to say. They kept Punk there and didn't send him home. They sent Perry home. So from a professional standpoint, we'll see what happens. We'll see what announcements come out later on. But I know Tony Khan addressed it later on in the scrum, but we'll see. We'll see what happens there. I'm not happy about the whole window, the glass comment that Perry made and all that stuff. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. If there's any further punishment for that. But I'm probably missing a billion things, but I only have about 6 minutes left on the show, unfortunately. But all I have to say is rest in peace, Bob Barker. Rest in peace, Terry Funk. And, long live the Fireflies. Follow the Buzzards. Rest in peace, Bray Wyatt. Shout out to CrushingKayfabe.com. Follow us on there. Follow us on Patreon, please. $1 a month, we can keep the lights on, keep the Fireflies going. I'd plan to bring some lanterns out here. I got one in the back, and that's all, unfortunately. But by another one I was going to bring out here just as a tribute to Bray Wyatt. I missed my mark on that, unfortunately. Things have been a whole lot of crazy lately in my life, so I apologize for that. But maybe we'll have a more fitting tribute to Bray on the next show. I'll see if I can gather my senses enough to remember that. But yeah, support us down at Then and Now Flea Market, downtown Trenton, Tennessee. If you're in the Western Tennessee area, please check them out. They're right on the square. You can't miss them. They're across from the courthouse. But check them out Then and Now. You can pick out some handmade items for my wife. And unfortunately, I don't have any CDs right now there. I'm sorry, but I'm hoping to remedy that in the future. We'll see what we can do. But thank you, whoever bought the CDs there. Thank you for buying me out there. Thank you. We'll see what we can do. I'm hoping to get some more merchandise together, some more things together, hopefully very, very soon. And I know I've been saying this for years, but I am still working on my next album, and I'm hoping to get that out very soon. I think I was shooting for the first quarter of this year, and that didn't happen, unfortunately, due to financial means, because we still got a couple of drum tracks to record. I've still got to master and mix and master everything. So we're kind of lagging behind there. But I will be at the Humboldt Fall Festival. So if you're in the area in Humboldt, Tennessee, you can drop in, say hi, and watch me perform there. I can't really think of anything. Like I said, I've got a billion things to say, but not enough time to say them, unfortunately. But thank you guys for tuning in. Continue to send prayers out to the Ukraine, or to the for the Ukraine, I should say, and support legitimate organizations, getting aid out to them. I mean, aside from that, like I said, rest in peace to everyone that unfortunately passed recently, and And the prayers going out to the Funk, the Wyndham, the Barker family. Yeah. Thank you everyone for tuning in. God bless.